It's a party.
It is a party. Hi.
Yeah, this is a good Monday morning.
I'm so stoked.
Me too.
Hello, 18 peoples. Hi, Annie. Hey, if everyone wants to just pop in the chat which campus you're from, what you want to get out of this session today. Really excited you could all be with us live. We are recording this session for release on podcast, and just really excited that you guys made the time to be here today. Good call.
Yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Bakersfield. Hey, Dominguez Hill, sports management. Ooh. Hi, Pomona. Hi, Annie. Great to see everybody. All right. San Bernardino, that's amazing. Hey, Cal State LA. Fabulous. All right, everybody, let's get going. So my name is Dina Ibrahim. I am the executive director of the Cal State Entertainment Alliance. Really thrilled today to be chatting with Felisa Israel. She is an incredible human, you guys. She has worked for the NBA for almost over 20 years. She was the Phoenix Suns Director of Entertainment and Special Events. She was also NBA Entertainment's Director of Live Programming and Entertainment. She also helped start the WNBA, that's right, with the Phoenix Mercury, and also started her own live event production company, Tenfold Entertainment, which you can check out at tenfoldentertainment.com. So Felisa has been doing a lot of cool stuff for a long time. She also teaches at the UCLA Anderson School of Management, where she helps guide students like yourselves into careers in entertainment. So she's all about giving back, helping others, helping nurture the next generation of sports and entertainment and event production. And you guys should check out Impact Learning Institute. Impact Learning Institute is an incredible place where you can sign up to study with Felisa and get to learn her tricks of the trade of basically how to get a foot in the door. This is a very tough industry. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Felisa to the program, and thank you so much for being here. I want to start at the beginning. So because I mentioned that you had such a long career with the NBA, and I think sounds like quite a few of our audience would love to work for the NBA. How did that happen? How did you make your first moves?
Well, what's funny is, first of all, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm so excited. And for those of you who want to turn your screens on so I could look at your faces, I'm down for the party. So I like interacting as much as I possibly can. I was a student at Arizona State University and proud Sun Devil. It took me 6 years to graduate with barely a 2.5. School was very hard for me. I'm one of those people who have a challenging time retaining information from what I read. And because I wanted to have a business degree. Is everything okay on the formatting?
Totally cool.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Anyway, I wound up graduating from the communication college, and I wanted to be in entertainment and music. I wanted to be in the entertainment industry. And you know what? I'm sorry. I don't want to look at myself. I want to look at Dina.
Okay. Well, let's look at Dina.
Yeah, I want to look at Dina.
There we go.
There, that's better. Thank you. So yeah, I wanted to be in music and entertainment. And then I wound up, it's funny because my senior year of college, somebody offered me an internship opportunity at the NBC affiliate TV station.
They just offered it to you, just like that? Come on now.
Well, they were like, Felisa, there's an internship available at Channel 12. which is an NBC affiliate TV station. I think you should go for it. And I was like, no, I'm not interested in TV. I want to be in music. And they're like, yeah, but TV is a part of the entertainment industry. You should think about it from that perspective. And I was like, that's a good point. So I did. I went after it and I got it. And, while I was there, I'm such a learner, I'm an investigator as far as like real world stuff, right? So I want to know how things work. I'm a Virgo. I have a very analytical mind. And so I started, sneaking in. I was a marketing intern, but I would sneak into the broadcast room. I would watch the news. I would watch the reporters. I would watch the camera operators. And I was like, this is really cool to see how everything happens behind the scenes. And then there was a woman, she was the big, vice president in charge. And I saw like, she's this person, she's got this going on. She's got this going on. She's like, yeah. And I was like, I want to be in her world. And so I just went in and I saw where her weak spots were. And I said, hey, I would love to organize your files for you. Is that okay? And she was like, yeah, go ahead. So I'm on the floor, at that time it wasn't a lot of computer files. It was actual hard files. And I'm on the floor in her office, like digging through her files and like looking at the people she conducts business with and how she can, and at the same time, I'm hearing her on conversations all day, negotiating deals. And I made her life easier. And because I was doing that, I earned, a few things that I always tell my students: trust, respect, and credibility. And by the time that I graduated from ASU, she offered to set up informational interviews with me in Los Angeles in the music and entertainment industry. And I actually got a job offer at the Greek Theater, which I was extremely excited about. And then I was there during an aftershock from the Northridge earthquake. And I was like, I'm out of here. I got to take the first flight back to Arizona. I'm like, the ground is shaking. I don't know how to deal with this. Right. And so then it was the year after the Suns with Charles Barkley played Michael Jordan and the Bulls in the 93 championship game. You guys may have seen The Last Dance over the last year and a half. With Michael Jordan. I think that was on Netflix. And I was in a few, you would have to know where I was standing, but I was in a few of those shots because I wound up starting the Phoenix Suns when I came back right after that year. And, I was talking to somebody that I knew that was working there. And he was like, Felisa, what do you want to do? I'm like, I really want to be in the entertainment industry. And he's like, why don't you come to my office on Monday? He's like, there's entertainment and sports. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, whatever, and I didn't really want to work in sports, but I came and I checked it out and I gave it a shot. And my first big gig was the national anthem auditions. And I remember my boss at that time was like, just so you know, you're not going to like this song by the time you've heard it at least 150 times. And I was like, I took it so personally, as a musical person, I was like, how can you say that? I'm like, these people are coming to sing their hearts out. I took it very seriously. And I was excited because I was like, I'm going to see, I'm going to find the next Whitney Houston. And I conducted like this whole American Idol, situation before American Idol. So that was a lot of fun for me. And I was a former dancer. So then when I was in charge of the Phoenix Suns dance team, I was like, oh, yes. I was like, I get to choreograph them. I get to produce their music. I get to work with DJs. I get to outfit them. So I get to live vicariously through the dancers. And then eventually I started seeing the court as a stage. There's multiple opportunities to program for the fan experience. From an entertainment standpoint, you've got, pregame, you've got timeouts, you've got quarter breaks, halftime, second half, postgame. And so I just played. It became a huge canvas for me. And then I started working with radio stations and concert promoters and producers and record labels and booking talent. And once I started figuring out that I'm like, I could book talent, I was like, oh, this is a game changer for me. Yeah. And because at that time, the Suns was a hot ticket, There was no Arizona Diamondbacks at the time. There was no Arizona Coyotes. I forgot if they call it Phoenix Coyotes. I think Arizona Coyotes. It was just the Cardinals at that time. So that was the Suns ticket was a hot ticket coming off that championship run against the Bulls. And so I was a commodity as the head of entertainment for the Phoenix Suns. And I saw how I was able to leverage that to my advantage.
Amazing. So what made you then transition from that gig to starting your own company? Because I want students to kind of understand the difference between working for an organization and then taking the leap to working for yourself.
Oh, yeah. Well, so I did that at the Suns, and then I kept getting promoted and promoted because I started, obviously I'm someone who likes to take initiative, and I'm a highly creative person. So I kept rising. And then it's funny because the NBA All-Star game was in Phoenix during the time that I was there. And I was one of their on-the-ground contact people to help them execute and prepare for the All-Star game. But then I helped start the WNBA, the Phoenix Mercury, as well. And that was very empowering. It was magical to watch these women's dreams come true right before their eyes, and working and playing in a professional sports league that they never thought they'd have the opportunity to do. And then once I did what I needed to do in Phoenix, I was like, I want bright lights, big city. So I want New York. And because I had established those relationships with the NBA when I was working with them for the All-Star weekend. It was a natural transition for me. So I went to New York and I worked for NBA Entertainment, where I produced and directed large-scale live events like the All-Star Games and international exhibition games, and evaluated all the NBA teams, meeting with their high-level executives, and reported my findings back to ultimately the commissioner, David Stern, at the time. But then fast forward, after I was there during 9/11, and my family was in Arizona. And I know that the NBA had a satellite office. It's like a 3-person office in Santa Monica. And so I wound up going to that office, and I was in charge of evaluating the Western Conference region. And the 2 guys that were running that office were doing product placement for film, music, and television for the NBA. And so they were also running something called the NBA Entertainment League, the E-League, not the current E-League, which doesn't have to do with, this one didn't have to do with gaming. The current one does. And it was comprised of over 200 celebrities, producers, directors, Uber agents from CAA, WME, ICM, Casey Wasserman. It was an extremely powerful networking room and for Hollywood. And it was fascinating to me to see how sports influenced entertainment and entertainment influenced sports. And, you had everybody from Will Ferrell to Jamie Foxx to Adam Sandler to, all of these people showing up on a regular basis consistently for 16 weeks. And in 08, when the economy crashed, I won a negotiating deal with the league where I acquired that property. And then I owned it for a while. I was a co-partner with somebody, and it was just fascinating. And then I realized I wanted to go back to my passion of producing. So I started my own live event production company. And I what's so funny is that I kind of like, that emoji, I just kind of surrendered where I was like, I'm not going to build a business model. I've earned this like crazy Rolodex and relationship all of these years with people. I'm just going to send out a newsletter, create a website, and let people basically know that I'm available for hire. And that's what I did. And I have to tell you, it sounds awesome and it sounds fun in theory. And I remember sitting at my desk at the Suns and, and at the league thinking to myself, if this was my team, this is how I would do it. If this was my gig, this is how I would do it. And it's so easy to say that. As a matter of fact, I remember sitting at my desk when I was with the NBA thinking to myself, I'm going to start my own company one day and I'm going to call it FaceTime. And this was before FaceTime was ever a thing, but I wanted to call it FaceTime. And of course, I thought I was so original because FaceTime is how you get the best deals done, right? It's like, it's the energy that people feed off of each other and respond to. You can't fake it. Like, even though we're on a computer, I'm looking into your eyes, I'm responding to your body language. And if you weren't interested in me, you would be distracted. You would be looking away. You would be like, I could tell, but, so I was excited to start a company called FaceTime, but we all know what happened with that. But yeah, I started, my birthday is, on the 10th, September 10th. My brother is on September 10th, 4 years later. I love the number 10, 10 fingers, 10, it's just a well-rounded number. And, I stayed, after I left the NBA, I stayed on working all-star weekends and in a kind of different role than I had been prior. And I was working with sponsors and doing sponsor execution and activation for the parties, like the EA Sports Party and the Adidas Party and all the stuff, ancillary parties. But I was their contact for the sponsors. And I was thinking, I had never really had to deal with sponsors before. And I thought to myself, you just have to treat them like they're being heard, they're being understood, and you just go above and beyond to make them feel special and important for spending all their money with you. And they always walked away having such a positive reaction. And I like the term tenfold. So somebody and I were talking and they're like, why don't you call your company Tenfold Entertainment? Because you like to do everything 10 times better than the norm. And I'm like, done, mic drop, let's go. So I just created a, logo. We called it Tenfold Entertainment, and here we are. And, it's scary. Like, you can sit there and daydream all day long while you're getting a paycheck and you've got, a powerful legal team behind you and a massive global brand as security, an HR department and the gamut. But when you, thank you, when you own your own business, you are the CEO, the COO, the CFO. You're all of these things. You're the lawyer, you're the accountant, and you're also totally accountable, liable, and responsible for every decision that you make. And I tell myself and everyone who works for me, everything I say and do can be held against me in a court of law. Everything. Especially in today's world with, hypersensitivities, cancel culture, the whole thing. So it's just like, it's scary being an entrepreneur. And I always tell my students, I'm like, look, there's two kinds of people in the world. There's leaders and there's followers. And there's a lot more followers than there are leaders because it's hard to be a leader. So yeah, it's a gamble.
It's definitely hard to be a leader. I know a lot of students tuning in might be thinking about leadership roles that they can be doing on campus. I know a lot of students are involved in like student clubs. There are quite a few entertainment focused student groups where, they're hustling, they're trying to bring in speakers, they're trying to get sponsors for their events. They're trying to do that on a small scale. So is that something that you look for when you're hiring people at your company or hiring interns? Do you look for any signs of leadership or like activity on campus?
Somebody asked me once, they're like, Felisa, if you could hire anyone, who would it be? And I said, 10 more of me, because I know how the job would get done. I have a very strong work ethic. I stop at nothing. People were telling me, they're like, oh, when you become an entrepreneur, it's 24/7, it's 24/7. I said, I'm 24/7ing it anyway for somebody else. So why not do it for myself? I take ownership of this is my baby, and so I'm happy it's never like a bother because I enjoy my work, but I like people who are innovative. I like people who take initiative, just like I did with the files. that day. I like people who don't feel like they need to be told what to do. I'd rather have them tell me what to do. And I've given a lot of students and interns along the way. I'm like, tell me how to do it. You give me the direction and I'll follow your lead. And they still don't do it. And so it's rare that you find people who are really made of that kind of work ethic.
Right. Well, that takes a heck of a lot of energy too. I mean, producing events is exhausting and stressful. And do you also look for people who can maintain their calm in extremely stressful situations where things are high stakes and, you know, we're on, it's live, we're doing this. But I guess a lot of people tend to like panic and just lose it.
Well, I would say I have at least 100 human beings that I've trained since being an entrepreneur, students that are now in the workforce, who would tell you that Felisa has a certain method that she uses to test people to see what they're made of. So when I started Tenfold Entertainment, my first big gig out of the gate was with Leonard Armato, who was Shaquille O'Neal's agent through his NBA career. And he started the world. He's like, Felisa, I have this great vision of taking world-class pro beach volleyball, Olympic level competition style, and meshing it with a Coachella music festival vibe. And I want you to help run it. And I was like, okay, cool. You know, I was thinking like volleyball, it's got a ball, it's got players, it has fans, it'll translate, you know, and and it did. But, you know, it turned out to be a pre-qualifying event for the Olympics, and it was a broadcast live on all NBC platforms, nationally and internationally. And this was my first entrepreneurial, like, big deal, right? And so everyone's looking as, you know, what's Felisa going to do? What's Felisa going to do? And so I went back to him and I was like, Leonard, I'm good, but I'm not that good. I need a bigger budget. Like I need people of my professional caliber to come in and help me do this. You know, I said, NBA All-Stars is a 3.5-day live event. This is a 6-day live event on international broadcast. It's like, please, this isn't the NBA. And I was like, So as an effort to not lose this opportunity, and by the way, kill it, I started a relationship with UCLA Anderson Business School. And I thought in my head, I'm like, I'm just going to go find a bunch of young, hungry students who want careers in sports and entertainment. I'm going to go train the heck out of them, and I'm going to turn them into an army of rock stars.
Yes.
And I do that by creating a platform, and I throw them into the fire. That's my method. I throw them and I see what they're made of. And either they get it and they can handle the heat, or they can't. And when they can't, they become a distraction and they got to go.
Tell me about those who got to go. Tell me about some people you worked with that you couldn't work with any longer, and why.
You know, I am patient, and I treat people the way that I wish people would have treated me. So I like to train, but when people make choices, and most of the time it's a choice to not be present and to not accept what, you know, I like a challenge. I don't mind being challenged, but not when it comes from a place of ego or being cocky. If you're confident about something, challenge me, bring it. I'm in, let's go, you know, and then I'll either Nathan, who's sitting right here, there have been moments where he's like, no, I don't think this is going to work, or we should do it this way. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let's do it your way. And I know usually what the end result's going to be because I've been there, done this. Like this isn't my first, second, or 10th rodeo. I mean, I've been around 30 years working. But sometimes it's important to let people learn for themselves. And if they choose to learn from the experience, such as Nathan, who's, you know, I refer to as my right hand and my left hand and the captain of our ship, then they learn. And that's really the most important part. But if they choose to not learn and continue to be cocky about it, we're not compatible. We're not going to work. I'm not for you. You're not for me. It's time to go. You should go probably find something else that suits you.
So what are some of the worst things that interns have done in your experience? Tell me some nightmare scenarios.
Um, I don't like liars. I don't like people who are sneaky. I've caught people sneaking around. I don't like people who don't respect my position. I like to lead by example and who don't act as an extension of me. So I'm just going to put it this way. I'm not hooking up or fooling around with people that I shouldn't be. I don't mix personal and professional. I maintain my professionalism 100% of the time. I don't do drugs with band members that I've hired. And I am not erratic, and I don't lose my cool under pressure. I don't scream at people. I don't curse at people. I don't talk down to people. I'm not demeaning. So if you're going to come at me that way, when I haven't come at you that way, then again, that just doesn't fly. So I've caught people in different circumstances where I'm just like, you're not for me. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Some people it works out, some people it doesn't. Entertainment is such a tough business. Would you agree that the most important thing you can bring to the table is a positive attitude, can do, will do, whatever it takes. And sometimes those tasks can be high level, strategic, and sometimes it's just about taking out the trash, and just being willing to do what needs to get done, and to improvise.
Yeah,
right?
I'm someone who's like, if you tell me no, I say, why not? That's just been my story, throughout my entire career. And, our motto within my company is, Nathan, what do we say if something seems challenging?
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. We'll make it work. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to ask you about, speaking of skills that go a long way in this business, is I wanted to talk specifically about the market for Spanish speakers.
Oh.
So I noticed on your website, Tenfold, that you work with a company called Global Village, right? And you've produced some virtual events with them and done some, you've done international work as well. I know a lot of young people in the Cal State system are bilingual. So do you see more opportunity out there for Spanish speakers as well?
Oh, yes. I'm almost jealous because when I was with the NBA, so it's funny, when I was with the Suns, back it up, because again, my passion is music. VH1, now everybody knows Save the Music, but before everybody knew what that was, they came out with a show called Divas Live with Mariah, Gloria Estefan, Aretha Franklin, although I shouldn't have to say that to you guys. Who else? Celine. Did I say Celine, Mariah, Gloria, Aretha, and Shania Twain. And I was watching them and they were singing the most beautiful, very organized harmony parts with each other. And I was like, there was some rehearsal behind this. I could tell, what are the powers to be? And then I started understanding that VH1 Save the Music was behind it. And I, at 27 years old, nominated myself. I did research and I got in touch with the National Association of Music Education, which is a lobbying group that supports music and education, because that's one of the things that is to be pulled in budgets in schools. And I think music is crucial. It was the one thing. So I nominated myself to be on their advisory board, of course, with the president of Juilliard and Wynton Marsalis, all of these people. And I flew myself out to Washington, D.C. to interview with them. And they said, what makes you think that you have what it takes to be on this advisory board? And I said, well, the NBA mandates a community outreach initiative called Read to Achieve, where they have players that go into these schools and read books to these children. And not only do the players sometimes have challenges reading the books, but properly enunciating their words to connect with these young children. But the one thing that I'm seeing that they're constantly connecting on is music. And I said, I want to promote athletes in music to connect with communities, and all over the world, music's a universal language. So they accepted me on the advisory board, and I was selected by the government to be a delegate ambassador to go to Cuba and speak about the importance of music in sports, in my job. And little does everybody know that on defense, when you hear these drum rhythms in basketball games, some of them are built off of Afro-Cuban rhythms, which is very subliminal for athletes when they're playing. It almost creates like a warrior mode effect. And so I was talking about these things at Juilliard in Cuba, and I was like, I want to speak Spanish. The people, especially being in a communist country, the people of, like, they weren't able to see NBA games on television. And, you know, I brought a whole bunch of gifts with me, and the people of Cuba were so excited to have anything that represented the NBA. And then I wound up having to produce games in Mexico City, and international exhibition games and stuff like that. And so the NBA sent me to Cuernavaca in Mexico for a 2-week immersion course to try to learn Spanish. And, you know, it's so important. And I still can't speak it in the way that I dream about speaking, you know, but it's so important. And, you know, I just met someone recently that told me she's a bilingual sports broadcaster. And I met with her last weekend because I'm like, I want you involved in my world somehow, some way. So yeah, it's important.
You heard it here, folks. Definitely brush up on your linguistic skill. I think I've met a lot of students who happen to speak Spanish and are not highlighting it enough in their skill set.
Oh yeah, well, especially in today's world, you know, that's a commodity. I mean, this diversity, equity, inclusion world that we're living in. As a matter of fact, the president of the Arizona Coyotes is the first Hispanic president, I think, in the NHL. And I met with him, and he was telling me how important it is for him. I think he came from the Angels, right, Nathan? Didn't he come from that? I think so, but he's determined to make it a very blended, diverse infrastructure, not just in the executive team, but also with the fans.
Awesome.
So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I want to circle back to the Impact Institute. And then I also want to ask you about producing virtual events during the pandemic. But back to the Impact Institute for a second. Could you let our audience know what to expect when students sign up for Impact?
Yeah, so we were inspired at the World Series of Beach Volleyball, right? We did that for 5 years. And we literally created this army of rock stars. And then about 6, and it ended, that property folded after 5 years. And then about 6 years ago, UCLA Anderson Business School asked me to teach a high-level sports and entertainment class. And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, we'll try it. Nathan he started with me as an intern, stayed on as a producer with Tenfold. And then when I got asked to speak or teach, I asked him to come on as a TA. And he was like, yeah, we loved it. I literally fell in love with training the next generation. I love the next generation. People can talk smack to me about, oh, the millennials, oh, the Gen Zers. And I'm like, no, there's diamonds in the rough everywhere. Like attracts like. So the ones who gravitate to me, I know are special and want to work hard. You know, I can already sense that that's what they have about them. And then, so when we were teaching, we're like, one of the girls that was working with me, she was like, Felisa, I've calculated it. Since you left the NBA, we've trained, mentored, and helped to place upwards of 100 students. She's like, we know the formula. I want to build a business model, pitch it to Anderson and see if they bite. And I was like, you know, very vulnerably in my head, I was like, It took me 6 years to graduate from the biggest party school in the country with barely a 2 at that time, barely a 2.5. I'm not getting anything at UCLA, right? We built it, we pitched it, they bit. And I'm proud to say that I own my own professional development program at Anderson Business School for students who want careers in sports, entertainment, and media. And it is not exclusive to UCLA, and it is not exclusive to UCLA students. It's for everybody. We've had students from Brazil. We've had students from Indiana. We've had students from Canada, Mexico. And I forgot what the question was, but
just walk me through the curriculum. Walk me through what students can expect to get out of it. Are you guys meeting virtual or in person? How does it work? Okay, great. So, when I was teaching this other program, I was calling all of my big shot friends, right? Like the president of Staples, now crypto, the senior vice presidents all over the place, right? And I was like, you want to speak? You want to speak? And they're like, yes, yes, yes. And I was like, wow, no one is big timing me. No one is saying no. People want to give back. There's something special here with these students. And so that's when I was inspired, and people would be like, oh, Felisa knows everybody. And I do know a lot of people because of the experiences that I've had and the fact that I care about my relationships, not just establishing them, but maintaining them, And so I figured, why not take my 30-year network and make it other people's net worth, the next generation. And so we built this platform. It's 4 weeks. The first week is a high-level intensive masterclass, and that's every day, where we bring in high-level executives, and there's an academic portion where we teach you how to be the ideal young professional within a corporate infrastructure, so that by the time you're interviewing and then you really get into these environments, you're not freaked out. You're actually more confident in knowing what to expect, because I take all the students through the journeys of the personal school of hard knocks of GMs, agents, presidents, et cetera, and owners. And then the next 3 weeks, we have these experiential learning projects. So think capstone plus internship plus real world experience. And you're literally matched with an executive coach that serves your personal needs and interests of what you want to accomplish. And they're giving you very, very high level projects where you're going away with your group, putting it together, building it out, constructing it. Then you come back and they Shark Tank you. And they say, all right, this works because of A, B, and C. This doesn't work because there's not enough return on the investment, not whatever the case may be, right? And by the end of the 3 weeks, it's almost like immersive, intensive, real world transitioning from school to sports, entertainment, media, and at the highest level. And you're walking away with constructing these massive pitches with very sophisticated budgets and understanding how everything works from A to Z, all of the construct. And it's been really, I have to tell you, I've had I interview all the students initially, and I said, what's your dream job? And I'll tell you, maybe 7.5 to 8 students out of 10 will say to me, I want to be a GM of a team one day, or I want to be an agent. And I'm like, yeah, they don't know necessarily what that entails. And so by the end of I watch people transform from the second I meet them to the last day of graduating from our program. It's wild and it's awesome. And a lot of people change their minds because they understand the foundation, the underbelly of what that consists of. When's the next session?
We're starting registration is open now at impactlearninginstitute.com. So go check it out. And registration is free. And we also have a 501c3, by the way, for scholarship students who need help. And we are all inclusive. We're open to everybody, whether they can afford it or can't afford it. And, regardless of where their level of education is, we prefer people who are serious about their careers and wanting to learn more. And so it looks like it's going to be started. We're going to have an online and we're going to have an in-person, and it's going to take place. I think we're confirming that this week with UCLA, but it looks like it's going to take place at the end of May, right, Nathan?
Yeah, online is, starts end of May and then in-person end of June.
Online, end of May, in-person, beginning of June?
End of June.
Oh, sorry, end of June.
Okay, fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So everybody check out Impact Learning Institute.com. And to learn more about the program, to register, if you're interested. It sounds like it's going to be towards the tail end of the academic year, so totally doable. And this is through UCLA's extended education, right? So you don't have to be a student at UCLA. I just want to bring that point home that anybody can register for the Institute, and you will get the individual attention of Felisa and her team. She knows everybody and will be happy to connect you in your journey, because in entertainment, it's a lot about what you can do, but it's mostly about who you know. And I think that's the most difficult thing to do in entertainment, is to start somewhere and build your network. So I love what you said about having a huge Rolodex, basically having a huge database of contacts. What are your best practices for maintaining contacts, for keeping in touch, for people you may not have worked with for several years, but they'll take your call? Like, how do you keep your relationships going in the industry?
Well, I think that's a great, I think a lot of your questions have been great, but this one is particularly important because this requires work and energy and effort. And, I'll give you guys an example. So social media has made our lives much easier to maintain relationships and contact with people. You don't have to call people to find out, what are you up to, and et cetera. You can see everyone's blasting their lives on social media. So I did not know that I was going to be having my own professional development program. I wasn't aspiring to that. It just kind of organically happened to me, and which I'm extremely grateful for, right? So fast forward, I'm friends with the commissioner of the NBA and the deputy commissioner of the NBA, because we were in the ranks together over the last 30 years of my life. And I'm like, I want to let them know what I'm doing. So I reach out to the deputy commissioner, and I had seen a couple months prior, this woman that I know lost her mom. And I saw it on Facebook, and I took note. Little did I know. So when Mark Tatum, the deputy commissioner, he's like, Felisa, I'm going to put you in touch with my assistant and she'll coordinate the meeting, et cetera. Little did I know that woman was his now assistant. And when I got in touch with her, I was like, and she's like, oh my gosh, hi, Felisa, how are you? I said, how are you? I said, I'm so sorry to hear about your mother passing away. And we had such an emotional and loving, special moment. And I put everything else aside and I just focused on her, and I made that a very real moment. And when I have a simple solution in my life, if you just treat people the way that you want to be treated, this world would be a better place. And so, if God forbid my mother died and somebody took that moment, even though I was working for a head honcho at a massive company, if someone took a moment to really make me feel important, special, heard, and seen and cared about, I'm going to go the extra yard for that person, because that's the kind of people I want in my life. And so I think it's just really easy. You're able to see what's going on in people's worlds right now based on what they share on social media. So quick follow-ups, when I see birthday messages come up every day, I text people personally. And I'm like, I hope you have an incredible day and, enjoy everything that makes you happy. That's nice. It. Yeah.
So I have one more last question, then I want to open it up to any audience questions. So
Sure.
if you guys have any questions, those of you with us today, pop them in the chat and ask whatever you want. My last question has to do about event production in the pandemic. Hopefully we're coming out of it. I mean, I'm over it. I'm so sick of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to go back to live events already.
Mm-hmm.
But do you not think that there will, for at least another few years, perhaps forever, be an appetite for some events to be held virtually or hybrid? Or do you see it just all going back to normal, hopefully by this summer? What do you think?
You know, I strangely have a different perspective because when I was working for the NBA, I was traveling on 6 planes a week. I was visiting 3 markets a week, evaluating teams. 9/11 happens. One of the most surreal and scariest days of my life living in New York. And I was one of the initial people that had to get back on a plane right away to start visiting teams again. So I had to learn at that time to not live in fear and not allow fear to take over my life. So, you know, I'm a responsible person in general. And, you know, one of the things that I just say is like, all I have control over is what's in my control. And, you know, I was feeling sorry for myself. I went through a grieving process and I don't like feeling sorry for myself. And when all the events started shutting down, I was just like, oh my, this is my primary language. Like my soul is being sucked out of my body. And I remember laying on this random, I was living in a family friend's additional apartment for a while, quarantining. And I was with my parents in Arizona and they wouldn't let me in the house, the whole thing, right? Because they're older. And I was laying on this couch and I was like, I'm so sick of feeling sorry for myself. And then I got inspired and I called Nathan and I was like, Nathan, I don't need to wait for people to tell me if the fan experience is coming back. I don't need to tell people to tell me if live event, I'm bringing it back. I've mastered this language. I know what I'm doing. And he was like, okay, how do you suppose we do that? I think he's probably thinking I'm nuts at this point. And I'm like, I can't look at this godforsaken computer for 6 hours a day. So we're going to create a game day experience and we're going to teach these students. If I can't do it, they certainly can't do it. So we're going to teach these students in an interactive way. We're going to have DJs. We're going to have dance team performances. We're going to have sponsor activations. We're going to create a whole game day experience with pregame and timeouts and halftime. And we did it. And our program is so cool because of that. I'm like, yes, you've captured my attention. So the speakers that we bring in, they are the players. The fans are the students. And, you know, it's just a really cool way of happening. Children's Hospital Los Angeles is one of my accounts, one of my clients. And we produce their largest sports fundraising event every year. And we're doing it this year at the Coliseum. And the last 2 years, we've had to do it online. So, you know, listen, you make things a party wherever you go, right? Even in your own house. Like, I'm not going to sit here and like wah myself. I'm going to turn on the music and I'm going to like get nostalgic and I'm going to have a good time. And that's it. You know, we have outlets. So it's a matter of like, are you making lemonade or are you just going to have lemons? You know, so there's options, there's opportunities, there's dance classes, there's concerts, there's all kinds of things. So we got to make the party wherever we go. And I refuse to allow anybody to take that away from me.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a question from Emily. She wants to know, who was a mentor for you and what did you learn from them?
You know, I was fortunate and lucky to have been trained under the Jerry Colangelo regime, who was the owner of the Phoenix Suns and helped to start the Arizona Diamondbacks. He's a really intelligent and smart and honorable leader who, to this day, I don't know if there's really anybody who could call him like an ass. Sorry, excuse my language. because what you see is what you get with him. And he's so honest. And I really admire that. And then I was also fortunate to learn under David Stern, the commissioner, who at that time, I mean, one of the most dangerously smart human beings I've ever witnessed in my entire life, knew something about everything. He was a true example of knowledge is power. And interestingly enough, through our scholarship program, we've had some first generation students go through our program who I'm just so inspired by, as you know, their work ethic and just wanting it so badly. And it's been making me think a lot about my grandfather lately, who was a first generation, built a business, came from Hungary as a child, was not speaking English as a primary language. And it makes me proud to be, I know that if he was around seeing what I was doing, it makes me proud to know that I'm making him proud and honoring what he went through in his life as a human as well. So yeah, those are just a few.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Ramsey wants to know, how do you pick your mentors? What characteristics do you look for? You covered some, you know, like you look for leaders, you look for people who are genuine. What other characteristics draw you to people that you look up to?
People who, and I think it's just so weird to say this, but I really have so much regard and respect and admiration for people who are brave to be honest in an environment where they could get ridiculed or shamed or canceled, I guess, nowadays. And I just remember sitting in conference rooms with very high level people, and you can tell that, you know, the people who are like trying to, like, they're speaking with their ego. And then you could tell the people who are just speaking honestly. And I just remember those people who spoke honestly are just like, I was taken by them. And that's someone who I would emulate to be. So yeah, I try to stay honest 100% of the time.
Speaking of honesty, Daniel wants to know, how do you stay true to yourself and not sip the Kool-Aid?
When I professionally die, I want people to talk about me and in a way where they say that she led with her integrity. I'm not a sellout. I am an extremely passionate person. You know, what you see is what you get with me. I have nothing to hide, maybe a little bit, but, you know, nothing that I'm afraid to expose at the end of the day. And, you know, if you make honest choices to yourself, I always tell people, and when there's challenging moments, like people who work for me or whatever the case may be, I'm like, I'm going to ask you a question. And before you answer the question, I want you to be honest with yourself. And then I want you to be honest with me. So why don't you take a pause and think about that for a minute? And I make people think about the consequences and actions of their choices. Because if you're going to sell out, there's a consequence. If you're going to drink the Kool-Aid, there's a consequence. If you're going to fight for something that you believe in that doesn't necessarily fall in line with whatever culture you might be a part of, think about how to be proactive versus reactive. That's how I proceed.
Love it.
Wow.
Annie has more of a comment. She says, I really appreciate you speaking on empathy. I think a lot of people think in order to move up that you have to be cold, but I like the human aspect you mentioned.
Thanks. And, you know, with that said, I feel comfortable to say that I don't like, again, I'm just going to say it. I don't like the word bitch. I don't like it. I don't refer to myself as that way. I have a strong personality. I know how to get what I need. I don't like referring to other women that way. And I think it's a terrible word. And I think that smiling, I think that treating people with kindness and respect is important. Again, I like to treat people the way that I want. I don't want somebody to be rude to me. I don't want somebody to be condescending or mean to me or speaking at me or, you know, I just try to always be present and aware of how I am treating other people from a very human, and decent standpoint, you know. And I also just want to make a comment, if that's okay, that I think it's something that's really important. I made a vow to myself that every time I have a platform to use my voice, I'm going to. And I just want to say that, you know, I have an A-type personality, which means when people throw opportunities at me, I want to hit a home run every single time, right? And I want to kill it. And unfortunately, I'm an example of a career woman and an executive who got caught up in like hitting a lot of home runs. And I didn't take a moment to think about what I ultimately wanted to be, was not an executive, but a mother. And, you know, I was not afforded the opportunity to have children. I waited. There is such a thing as a clock that ticks, and I wanted what I had come from in my life. And it's very easy to get caught up in the sexy and the glamour and, you know, the temptation of the world of sports and entertainment. But at the end of the day, if you guys want families and you want to blend the families with your careers, you know, I wound up losing 6 babies because I started too late. And maybe the reason that I'm supposed to have Impact Learning Institute is to take all my mama bearness and like wrap it around everybody and give them the best that I've got to give. But, you know, just something that no one had ever told me. And I think it's important to tell young people, both females and males. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I really, really do appreciate it.
It gets lost, and I would hate for anyone to go through what I went through.
Absolutely. Ramsey wants to know, have you been this confident your entire life? What built confidence in you?
I think coming from the family that I came from and watching my father, who instilled that into me. And he proceeds with such confidence and humility and honesty as well. And, you know, I just looked up to him, and because of him, I looked up to other people like him, and including women who are just, you know, I know I mentioned a few males, but there have been women in my life too that's just own their positions, you know, in such a graceful way. And that's really what I've wanted to emulate and be in my life, and be respected for being that way. And so again, when you're honest with yourself and you're confident about your own honesty, because you have nothing to hide. So I think that's something to think about.
It is. And my answer to that is my confidence comes from multiple failures. So I've failed so many times, it doesn't even matter. You know, if I had been in your shoes and I asked, you know, somebody very senior at work to organize their files, and had they waved me off and said, no, get out of my way, I would have shrugged it off, you know, or maybe I would have, you know, been upset about it, processed it, and moved on. I come from a background in journalism. My editor would look at my pieces and just crumple up the paper and throw it in the garbage. And he did that for months on end. So I've faced so much rejection and so much humiliation that I find myself able to put myself out there because I just don't care. If I fail, it's not a big deal. And I see a crisis of confidence among my students, among young people, that they just don't feel like they have it in them to ask for that promotion or to apply for 10 internships and get rejected, and then they're just done, you know?
There's a lot of discouraging stuff that happens. You know, first of all, one of my favorite things to say to people when we don't disagree or you can tell there's tension, I say, hey, look, and this goes for professional and personal too. I'm like, look, you don't have to like me. Not everybody on this planet is made to like each other. Can we get along? Can we work together? Let's try to figure it out. That's what I care about. You don't have to like me. I don't need to like you. Like, if you just say things as a matter of fact situation. I had something else, another comment that you had inspired me to think about. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think, again, just being honest and owning your position and not apologizing for being who you are. And I think it's important to understand who other people are, and understand, like when people take my class, I say, you're part of a family. It's called #ClubNoJo. It stands for no judgment. Club No Judgment. We are all different people. We're made up of different passions. We're made up of different ways of being. We're made of different ways of thinking, feeling, politically, whatever the case may be. All fine, all good. But in this room, we get each other's backs and fronts. We might not agree. Charles Barkley and I worked together. I did not agree with a lot of the things that he said or did at that time, but I respect him for being honest and knowing where I stood, and that's different. You don't have to like everybody, but the level of respect, that's a totally different ballgame. And I think that that's really important to understand. And I don't think everybody's made to agree in this world. I like controversy. I like challenging subjects. You know why? It makes my brain work harder. And I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you so much, Felisa.
Thank you.
Thank you for making the time to join us today. Thank you to our audience for hanging out. And please go check out the Impact Learning Institute.
Yes. If you guys want to have a good time, it's a party online and in person. And I guarantee that you guys will come out changed people. Nathan, have I forgotten anything?
No, I hope so.
You sure there isn't anything you want to add? Can folks follow you on social?
Yeah, they can follow
get in touch.
Impact Learning Institute on IG. And then also you can link me in, but expect for me to come back to you with asking you for your emails so that I can follow up with you to invite you to our summer party. This has been incredible. And I appreciate you guys so much. And, obviously everything that you guys are doing for the students as well. Like, the difference is what makes this world a beautiful place. I call it flavors. It's just flavorful, and when we can all come together, like, reminds me of the Skittle commercials, right? Like we all come together and help each other. That's really what the world is about. And should be about.
Yes, it is. And for students out there, know that there are plenty of people in this industry that want to help, that want to lift you up, that want to give back. We are not like an entirely closed off industry. There are opportunities out there. We are at the tail end of this pandemic. Get out of your social isolation, start applying for opportunities. There's an amazing career out there for you in whatever direction you choose to take it. You got to be open to it all. Sports, entertainment, music, they're all intertwined. And just be open to the opportunity. And we're happy to create a space where you're at the right place at the right time, connecting with people, learning from people. That is incredibly important to success in this industry.
Yeah. And, sometimes it just takes someone to see you and hear you and see what you're made of and understand your capabilities and help to guide you to put you in the right positions so that you are going to succeed. I want to see everybody win, and I will do what it takes to help you get to that point. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
I love it. Thank you, Felisa. You have a wonderful week. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, you guys. Have a great rest of your day and your week. Thank you so much.